Welcome back to the Kayak Bass Connection podcast. This is the official podcast of the Southern Illinois Kayak Tournament Trail. So I am your host, Jared, and this episode we're going to do a tournament recap of the Kayak Bass Tournament held on Coffeen Lake in Southern Illinois in September 14th, 2024. We're joined by our top three of the top finishers. We have Rece Schneider from Carlisle, Illinois. He was the winner of the event with an impressive 90.5 inches on a body of water that's not known for huge fish. So congratulations. Also, Jay Riedler, I got to mention his name. He did finish second. He had a great day with 89.5 inches. Unfortunately, he won the lotto on staying at work tonight. So he's at work and he's not able to join us. Also, third place finisher, Nick Chabarria. Did I say that right?
You're close. Chabarria. Yeah,
okay.
I like it. Thanks. You got it.
St. Louis, Missouri. So you also had a great day and finished third with 88.75 inches. And of course, we got the Southern Illinois Kayak Club Tournament Director, Josh Lincoln, with us. Not only did he finish in the top 10, but he actually got to cash the check for biggest fish on a body of water not known to have really big fish. So glad to have you with us as well, Mr. Director.
Happy to be here. And me and Nick actually tied for the big fish of the day, but I got mine a little bit earlier. So.
Okay. Awesome. I didn't see that. Congratulations. So Rece, how long have you been fishing tournaments?
I started in 2019. I think my first tournament was June month long or something that year.
Okay. So how many wins do you have? Do you know?
Regular season tournaments, I got 5.
Nice.
And I got 2 other ones that I won.
Okay. Awesome. Is SICK the main tournament trail you fish, or?
Yeah, they're the only tournaments I fish. So.
Okay. Fantastic. I know I've seen you at several of those events. So great. So you tell us about your day. Did it start out with a bang, or did you have to work for those fish?
I started out kind of slow. I started pretty close to the ramp, and I realized there's way too many people around there that started there. So I had caught one fish out short, so I went across to the other side.
Okay.
I started that first cove I fished. I think I caught 4 fish in there, and 2 were 17 3/4.
All right.
So 2 of my fish caught within the first hour probably, and
nice.
It's pretty constant the rest of the day. Just catch fish on a chatterbait. So I caught pretty much all of them.
I tell you, that is a common theme in this podcast. If somebody went back and watched all the episodes, that's probably the number one bait that gets mentioned by a lot of people.
I tried catching them on a frog, but I only had one on that. Really didn't have any blow-ups on it, so I switched to a chatterbait pretty quick.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you like that full-size chatterbait, or you do? I know a lot of people like the smaller ones.
No, I got the jackhammer.
The jackhammers?
Yep. Green pumpkin with some red on it.
Okay. Can't go wrong with that. So that was a couple of your big fish. Why did the other ones come up?
4 of my fish were on the chatterbait, and then the one was on a whacker and Senko.
All right.
That was close to some grass.
Okay.
But pretty much everything else was either close to wood or just kind of random. Out in the middle of nowhere.
Out in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, kind of. Up close to the neck, but it's like they're cruising or something, it seemed. Just the way I was catching them.
Yeah, I think you're right. When I showed up there and actually fished a little bit on Friday evening before the tournament started. I was expecting to see the same length that the last time I was there. It was choked full of weeds in the middle of summertime, and somebody told me they had sprayed vegetation there, but there was not a lot of weeds. There were some, but
yeah, I was hoping for more, but it worked out.
Yeah. Now, Nick, how did your day unfold? Did you have any success early, or did it go late?
Yeah, I took a little bit of a different approach to this tournament, just being the last one of the season. I wasn't, really in contention for AOI or anything. So I decided to, I guess, take a step back and kind of get back to basics and have a little fun with it. More fun than usual, I should say. Yeah. I had picked up a inflatable paddleboard, which I've been eyeing one for a while now, and I picked it up about a month ago. and decided I was going to fish that for our last tournament of the year. And, I guess I lucked out in a couple of ways because it wound up being just the perfect day for it. I mean, the wind wasn't too difficult to deal with. I found some super shallow fish, which, fits the inflatable paddleboard well because you can get really skinny with it. And I'll tell you, I only packed 3 rods and basically 3 baits going to the lake. I hadn't fished it before, watched a couple of videos on YouTube just to kind of get a sense of what the watercolor might look like and some of the structure. And one of those baits was a white pad crasher. And I threw that first thing in the morning, didn't really get bit. One of the other baits I brought was a Mega Bass mag draft and threw that around some of the points and didn't really have anything. So I wound up going all the way back into a pocket and found some success with the frog, and that's pretty much what I locked in my hand all day, and
Nice.
all my fish came on. So it was a fun day. I mean, anytime you can catch a bunch of fish on top water, that's always fun. And I love kind of getting back there in the gnarly stuff in the grass, and that's how they were setting up for me. So it was a good day.
That's awesome. I tell you, at Blast Off, I had some boat issues I was trying to iron out. So I was one of the last ones of the pack to come out on Blast Off. And I looked out over the horizon over out in the lake, and I looked like, whoever is on that paddleboard's a stud. That's what I thought. I was like, that's pretty cool.
It was fun, and I've fished from them a couple times, just here and there. Nothing. That was the longest day I've had on one, and for me, I really enjoy, and when I got into kayak fishing, I really enjoy sort of the adventure of it, the adventure that comes with it, and a little bit of the physical aspect of it, the physical challenge. And, the paddleboard kind of fits right into that. So for me, that I know, some people probably think I'm a little crazy, but for me, that just kind of fits right in and makes it that much more enjoyable to catch some fish.
Oh, yeah. So a question comes to mind. I have to ask Josh here: is that the first time you've seen someone in one of your tournaments on the paddleboard?
And yeah, that's a sick first for sure.
Yeah,
Maybe it's good luck. Who knows?
Yeah,
you may see it next year for a couple. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a good third place finisher and not far from a victory. So that's awesome. So what kind of paddleboard? We always ask people kayaks. I never get to ask people what kind of paddleboard were you on?
So I left the New Canoe U10 at home last weekend, and I picked up about a month ago. It's Paddle North, they're a Minnesota company. A buddy of mine, his family has a lake house in Michigan, and they had one up there that I was messing around with this summer, and really liked the quality of it, and found it on sale and got it.
Nice.
So it's been serving me well. I had it out on the Merrimack here on the Missouri side a couple weeks ago for a float, and so you can really do a lot of them. I was kind of a doubter of the inflatable, how it would hold up, but they're solid.
That's awesome. So you basically spent the whole day standing, or did you ever sit down on it?
No, when I was starting to get into some fish, that one pocket I went to where I caught my first, it wound up kind of being the magic spot for me. I caught a limit, I think by 8:30, probably mid to high 70s. And we actually went back in there later in the day and caught my that 20 that I pulled in later in the day. So when I was starting to get into them, I would sit down and kind of straddle it. When I would take pictures, I'd have to straddle it. So it made for some interesting catches. Certainly, knock on wood, I didn't fall in, which I was kind of anticipating, honestly. But I would have to kind of get down to one knee to net the fish and then kind of wrangle them on. But they all cooperated on the board, which is another shocker. I'm usually good for losing one off the board, but it worked out.
Your hand placement was good too.
Yeah,
there's that picture placement was good.
I've had issues with that before. Although I scared Josh, I had miscalculated or missubmitted a fish with an extra inch. So I was anticipating a little bit higher finish, and I think I gave Josh a heart attack at weigh-in.
A little bit, yeah.
I saw that very polite yet inquisitive look you gave him. Like, are you sure that's my total?
Well, and I will say, and Josh explained it perfectly. I had missubmitted it. That it was my fault, 100%. And the I don't know about anybody else's, but Tourney X used to send push notifications to your phone when a fish was submitted or if it was rejected or changed. And I realized I don't get those push notifications anymore. I only see them in the app, and I didn't realize that. So I didn't get a push notification, so I was a little confused on what happened. But Josh explained it perfectly, and it was all squared away. So hats off to him as a great tournament director as well.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think there's ever any doubt when Josh is running the tournament, it's going to be very fair and well done. So we've heard from everybody else, Josh. So I know your day was shorter than everybody else's because I saw you getting off the water to get ready for the weigh-in, not the weigh-in, but the measuring and the award ceremony and such. So you had less time than everybody else, but you still seemed to have a pretty good finish. How did your day go in the water?
Yeah, most of my tournament days either start late after everybody else blast off, make sure everybody's got their wristbands and everything, and usually I'm about an hour early back to the ramp to start judging fish, get things set up, get prizes set up. But really going into this event, Coffeen's the closest lake to my house, so I was blessed to go pre-fishing a couple times. And in my sorry, I broke up there. In my pre-fishing, I really honed in on a Texas rig bite, and I'd been really good success. So going into that tournament morning, that's kind of what was in the back of my head. Like, I'm going to catch them on a Texas rig. I had a couple spots planned out where I knew I was going to go fish. And then the ramp talk of the morning was the Strike King Hybrid Hunter and how that was the bait that was just absolutely crushing them. So I get to my first spot where I know those fish should be, and it was slow, and it shouldn't have been slow. I wasted about an hour, and I just really threw that Hybrid Hunter. I threw my Texas rig. I threw a wacky rig. It was kind of my confidence baits going in, and fishing for an hour, and I caught one short on a wacky, and I was like, this isn't working. So I came out of a cove, and I was like, maybe I just need to get back to basics and throw a chatterbait. First cast, first turn of the handle on a chatterbait, and that was like a 17.25, and it was on from there. I think from 7:30 to 8:15, I put 80, some low 80s on the board, and just like about a 35-40 minute span, it was just on. And then really I just kept catching fish on a chatterbait for the rest of the day. It was just hard to cull at that point. There were a lot of 14, 15-inch fish out there, but 16 and above fish were few and far between, felt like, for me.
Yeah. So 2 out of the 3 of you had really good luck on chatterbaits, and then Nick, yours was mainly on a white frog. Was what you said?
Yeah, on a white frog, and it's really something I like to throw later in the season. And what I found, though, they were under the mats, but it had to be the right mat. It wasn't every mat, and I believe, I'm terrible with grasses, but I believe it was the hydrilla coming up and matting. And then there was also that like willow grass, like the shoreline grass mixed in. And that seemed to be the ticket where I got, the majority of my bites on, was just throwing it up on the bank and pulling it over those mats. But as the day went on, you had to make multiple casts to the same mat, same area to get those fish to strike, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, you have to wonder, they just get aggravated at it after seeing it go by so many times, and that predatory instinct finally just clicks.
It could be, and I'll tell you, I found success early. I think had that same bite window that Josh was talking about early in the morning. And I actually have the baits here because I just wanted to show. So I was throwing the pad crasher. Everybody knows the regular standard pad crasher, and this was an older one, so I caught so many fish on it. The tails got ripped off during the tournament, but this was the one I threw later in the day, and I like to do this late in the season. I switched to the live target, and I think this is like the 95. It's the bigger size frog, so you can kind of see the difference. And wow. A couple reasons I throw it. The bigger one for the mats, I think it gives them more of a target to hone in on when those mats are really thick late in the summer, and they can see it a little bit better. But also, the wind picked up a little bit in the afternoon, and I think it creates just a little bit more disturbance on the mat with the wind blowing than the pad crasher. So, I wound up catching the 20 on this about 12 o'clock and in an area that I had fished in the morning. And actually, I'm almost confident I got a second shot at that 20. I was throwing the pad crasher in the morning, kind of in that little bite window we had, and threw it across a grass point into a smaller pocket on the shore, and was working my frog, and it just got crushed, and you could tell it was a big one. I saw the weight come up and get it, but the angle that I had casted it, I was trying to pull it through the grass point, and the fish just popped off, and I didn't think he got hooks because it didn't really fight that hard. It came off pretty quick. So I made a mental note and went back later in the day and threw that bigger live target, and in that same spot working it, same big explosion, and I got him out that time. So I'm almost sure I got 2 shots at that fish, which is pretty unreal. And, sometimes in these tournaments when it's your time to do well, and, things like that have to happen.
Oh yeah. I'm working on trying to share the picture of that 20-incher. See here.
I agree. When it's your time. I've only won one of these tournaments, but it felt like that one day that I won, it was everything just worked well for me, and I ended up winning by, like, I want to say it was down to a quarter of an inch, and it was just like that fish. I literally have a video of that winning fish that culled a quarter of an inch, and it flopped off my board, and like I've got a video of me like slapping it back into my boat, So I 100% agree. When it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah.
Rece, did you have any close calls that day that flipped the scales for you?
No, I don't think I lost any fish that would have helped or would have made a difference or anything. It's just everything was a decent day. That didn't lose any fish, surprisingly.
Hey, that's half of it. Sometimes is fishing clean.
Yeah. Seems like there's at least 1 or 2 fish that you think would help that you lose, but.
Now, Rece, I'm curious. There's a lot of different ways to fish a chatterbait. So, what color did you say you were using? Green pumpkin?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, some red there.
Red and just a paddle-tail trailer with the chartreuse tail.
What kind of line? I know that we've had Darren Hemker on here several times. I think he's a big advocate of just braid, straight braid.
I'll normally throw straight braid, but I just use my jig rod for it this time. That's got a 17-pound fluoro on it.
Okay.
Seems to work pretty decent most of the time.
So, Nick, what about those frogs? What kind of line are you using there? You're using mono or to float, or what? How are you approaching that?
No, I pretty much have one rod, and I'll actually use it for chatterbaits as well. But it's my frog rod when I have one tied on. It's a 7.4 heavy fast, and I pair it up with 50-pound braid. And I think for the kind of slop in the grass that we typically see in our Southern Illinois lakes, 50-pound is kind of a good medium because it's still very castable. You can get that frog a long way, but it's heavy enough to get them out. So it's a Powell. I think it's a Powell rod, and it's been good to me with frogs. I don't tend to lose too many, which is you typically do sometimes with the hollow bodies.
Okay. What about you, Josh? How do you have your rig set up?
My chatterbait, I was blessed to use that rod and reel everybody donated to me from last year. So all my fish came on that Daiwa Steez and that the Dobbins Champion rod, which was awesome. But typically I have like about 30 to 40 pound braid on there, and then I go down to a 15-pound leader.
Okay.
Fluorocarbon.
All right, that makes sense. So I know we talked about what Nick was using as a boat. Rece, what kind of kayak are you in?
I got a Old Town Topwater 120 PDO. Same as Josh. Oh, yeah. Right there in the background.
Oh yeah.
Same color.
Love those Old Towns.
Yep.
So did you cover a lot of ground on the lake to find your fish, or were they fairly close to launch?
Yeah, I went pretty far. I cut across and I worked down to, I guess, that point just in front of the dam.
Okay.
I just kind of fished around them coves the rest of the way back.
All right. So did you have any motors right on yours?
No, I don't have
pedaling or.
I didn't bring any electronics with me at all because I didn't want any distractions.
There's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah.
And of course, Nick, you didn't have any electronics on yours, right?
No, and I typically I don't fish with electronics typically, so I don't miss them when I don't have them. But I will use a motor on my U10. But was gonna determine to keep it simple one way or the other, as either catch it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Because most of the tournaments that I see at least on our tournament trail, they're being won at least 10 feet and shallower. So I often ask myself as I'm looking at the screen in front of me, if I'm fishing shallow, which I usually do, it's like, well, other than the water temperature and everything else, is what good is that really doing me? So you guys just proving the point that you don't have to have it all the time.
I did miss having the clock on there though.
Yeah.
To see if it's lines in time.
Yeah. Have a countdown. Yeah.
Yeah, Jared, I'm the same way, and especially our Illinois lakes we fish. I mean, they gear themselves so well to shallow water bite,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had fished. I moved to St. Louis here in 2020, and I had fished with some of the Missouri clubs for the first couple of years I was here before jumping over to SICK, and some of the Missouri Ozark lakes, of course. That's when you really could see the electronic shine. And I just enjoy myself so much more fishing shallow in the weeds. And, I think our Illinois lake set up so well for that. And that's what, to me, makes kayak fishing so fun, is getting, dirt shallow where, boats maybe can't get or people overlook. And, it really, we are fortunate to be in an area where we have so many options to do that relatively close.
Oh yeah, if you look at where our tournaments are generally held at, I mean they're within basically a 40 or 50 mile radius, at least half of them, right? So there's some nice lakes down there, and if you take, what do you think, Josh, would be epicenter of our tournament trail? Maybe Carbondale area?
No, I'd probably say it's further north.
Further north?
I'd probably say like Nashville, Illinois is probably like the center point, and then we go all the way from there. Typically, like St. Chris and Newton are towards our northern top lakes. Every now and then we go to Banner, which is probably like our most far north. And then Carbondale is probably like our furthest south. So we fish a lot in Carbondale. You got Cedar, Devil's Kitchen that we've held tournaments on. Kincaid's right kind of in that same neck of the woods. Little Grassy's right there.
Well, something I noticed at this tournament is, you kind of, I may not know everybody's name. You kind of recognize faces that are around at the end of the day and on the water and such. And we had, I had at least 3 new tournament fishermen that I talked to at the weigh-in. That's just the ones that stayed around the weigh-in. So that was encouraging.
Yeah, we had quite a few people since the Banner Marsh tournament that kind of found the club late in the season and then became members real late, even if it was just becoming a member for 1 or 2 events, just to kind of get their feet wet, which we encouraged with open arms, because really there's no better way to practice going into your rookie season next year than getting 2 or 3 tournaments under your belt at the end of this season, because we've all been there in that first tournament you're in, and it's live action, your heart's pounding, you got that fish on the board, and flop, there it goes, So I think we had a few new anglers kind of experience that, and they'll be ready to go for next season.
Yeah, that was great. And it's funny enough, I talked to like 3 of them, and they all lived within 20 miles of my house. and I was 2.5 hours away down there, so they made a pretty good drive down there as well. So
yeah, you got some new best friends up there.
Yeah, I gotta look them up. Should have got their phone numbers. But so speaking of new anglers, the 3 of you that are on podcast tonight are really experienced kayak anglers. Had a lot of different lakes under your belt and been successful in a lot of different conditions. So if you had one of those new kayak tournament anglers that are watching tonight and they're trying to wrap their head around, what it is, fishing tournaments and making that next leap, do you have any advice that you'd throw out there? This is a question I ask almost every podcast. So we've heard a lot of advice given out over the several episodes. But what about you guys? I'll start with Rece. Rece, what do you think?
I don't know, probably just like slow down. It seems like a lot of people try to work ahead of themselves and either fishing too fast, or I don't know, just find something that you're good with and then just stay with it. Find a bait. I don't know.
Find a bait that works and stick with it, right?
Something you're confident with, and build confidence with it.
Awesome. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I've been a kayak tournament fishing now, I think since 2017, maybe 2018. And I've been fortunate to fish with a few different clubs. I was living in Louisiana at the time when I started kayak tournament fishing. So started with a club down there, and it kind of started as they started. I fished their first event and was kind of in on the ground up. And, I think one of the things that I've seen change over the years in kayak fishing, for better or worse, is, I mean, you're seeing the explosion and the use, of course, of electronics that you'd find on big bass boats. And, everybody, people are running 2 motors in kayaks now and power poles, and all that's great. I mean, all those accessories can help you. But I think at the end of the day, what made kayak fishing fun for me was getting off the bank and finding new water and finding new ways to catch fish. And so I think the biggest thing, if you're just starting tournament fishing, obviously you love fishing, you want to be competitive, is keep it simple. Find what you like to do. You don't need, the most expensive kayak or the most expensive motor, graph, whatever it is, but get on the water, spend some time in the kayak, see what you like to do, and then you can kind of build out from there. So the biggest thing I could say is don't be intimidated by, some of the other rigs that you see, and they may work for other people, but you don't necessarily need them to be competitive, in any club, not just sick.
Yeah, great suggestions there. One of the interviews I saw recently was with Drew Gregory. He's a nationally known kayak angler, won all sorts of awards and championships, and he made a point that I've never thought of before. He said, because I don't spend a lot of money on my rods because we're hard on them inside of a kayak. They get beat around, and he's like, my rods are mostly $150 and less. So, if you think you got to have an ultra expensive setup, I love your piece of advice there. It's great. Josh, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I want to say it was, I think Jay said it at the award ceremony, but I thought it was just so true. And it kind of goes into what Nick said. But the biggest piece of advice I could give for somebody new, day one tournament fishing, and it's something that I tell everybody, especially people that are struggling in tournaments, is have fun. If you can put having fun as your number one priority, your tournament success will go up so much, because you just relieve yourself of that stress of, oh, I've got to catch this fish. Oh, I've got to get another fish. I got to get my limit fish. Oh, I just looked at the leaderboard. I'm 30 inches down. If you just go and say, hey, no, I'm going to go have fun. I'm going to go catch some fish, the rest will all fall into place.
Yep. And that's so true. I think it was Jay. I loved his quote. Said something about, somebody asked him, what he thought the key was to success, if I finished in second, and he basically says, I love to fish.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
Just, that's how I like to fish, so
he has been
off to him.
A stud in the club. So last year he was rookie of the year, and then this year he just followed up back-to-back second place finishes. That was awesome after recovering from shoulder surgery. So I mean, that's
impressive.
He was paddling last year, right? Was he?
I don't know if he was. Yeah.
And this year, okay. Yeah. So there you go, perfect example. Mm-hmm. You do not have to have a multi-$1,000 setup, and you can still be successful and just have fun, right?
Yep, for sure.
So this was the last tournament of the year for SICK, at least the regular season tournament. Are either one of you going to? I think either one of you going to be on the Crossroads team? Okay.
Fortunately, no. That's a goal though, for sure. I mean that seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
So have you given any thought about when next year rolls around, what you're going to change or what you're going to focus on that's different from what you did this year?
I was looking at the Angler of the Year, the final standings that Josh put out this week. And so this is my second year with SICK, and both years I finished in 10th place Angler of the Year. So if nothing else, it's consistent. But, my goal is definitely to be in that top 5 to get to fish Crossroads. And I think it goes back to what Josh said. I mean, the 2 tournaments that I've placed in with SICK now, and the 2 that I've done well in, I've really kind of been fishing carefree and not really too worried about it. So my first tournament with SICK last year at Newton, I placed second. I think I was an hour late to the ramp for first launch. I overslept on accident, and went out there and was just going to go see what I could do and had fun. And then this one, had fun with changing up the boat a little bit. So I think just relax and enjoy it. I mean, we're all getting out there to fish for 8-9 hours at a crack, and what's better than that? So I think I'll try to heed some of the other competitors' advice next year and just relax a little bit.
That's funny you said that, Nick, because from I want to say it was 2021, 2022, and 2023, the end of the AOY standings, I finished 8th all 3 years. And that was on top of like taking photos and really kind of like giving more of myself to the club versus my own fishing. And this year I came in and everybody noticed I didn't take as many photos this year. I mean, last year I took about an average of 400 photos a tournament day on top of my own fishing. And this year I was like, man, I'm hitting 8th. If I just give that 10% more, maybe I will crack the top 5. And honestly, I was hoping that 8th made Crossroads this year with it, how far away it was. I figured there might be some roll down spots, and had my worst year in 4 years. So who knows? Maybe I wasn't having enough fun.
That could be it. Yeah. Well, I know, Josh, you did a lot of things this year during the tournament season just to mix things up a bit. We tried to do some tournaments on some stuff lakes that we hadn't done before, and then you had the travel light, fish right travel light.
Yeah, that was a fun event.
Yeah, and so that kind of feeds into what Nick was doing, the simplification of the whole system, right? So
yeah,
what was it? Just give me a quick summary. What was that tournament all about?
That tournament was basically getting back down to the roots of kayak fishing. We all had, I want to say it was 2 or 3 pounds of tackle that we could bring. And then the really challenging part, and I didn't realize it was the challenging part when I set up the rules, was we only had 2 rods. The 2 pounds of tackle was fine. I packed enough stuff that I could figure out what I needed. The hard part was 2 rods. What 2 rods do you bring? And then how often you got to like a new set of structure or new something, and you're like, ooh, I want to throw this, but it wasn't tied on, So it was a really fun event. Hopefully we're going to do something more like that in the future. And then I got a couple new ideas for next year that'll be a lot more fun, and maybe even some multi-species events. So it's going to be a good time.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I want to thank all 3 of you for taking the time to come in and being on the podcast and being so open about your techniques at work, what your secret. So your secret is relax and have a good time. I love that. That's the be the title of this episode: relax and enjoy yourself. But anything else you want to get in and messages you want to deliver to the listening audience? Hopefully we have 6 members, maybe people contemplating membership next year.
I'll say, I appreciate all the work Josh does for the club and Jared with the podcast. As I mentioned, I've had, been fortunate to fish with a few clubs in different states around the country, and we really have something special at SICK, and a lot of it has to do with the work Josh does and just the environment that he fosters within the club to be, welcoming and really enjoyable. So hats off to him and all the members, and really, really fortunate to be part of it and looking forward to next year.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, we're definitely fortunate that we can't thank Josh enough for the work he does. He puts in throughout the year, and his dad too. His dad fried some awesome fish at the end of the tournament.
Yeah, we were super, super blessed to have him. This year he came up to me and was like, hey, can I kind of be a bigger part of what you're doing? I was like, heck yeah, of course. And he was able to make the first tournament, and he was really helping with judges and helping me get like prizes and everything set up. And then he had some events that kept him away for the rest of the season. And then I went to him. I was like, hey, I would really like to go above and beyond instead of just doing hot dogs. I think Nick manned the grill at the last year. But I didn't want to bring the grill this year. And I was like, it would be cool to like fry some fish. And like, he was like, yeah, I'd love to help. And he was awesome. Along with my wife, she came up and helped set up some of the prizes and stuff like that, which allowed me to fish a little bit more than I would have. Because let's be honest, if they weren't here, my tournament day probably would have ended at like noon, so I could get back and get everything started. So big shout out to both of them. Hopefully we'll see them more at the next year.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, Nick or Rece, are either one of you married?
No,
I'm not. No.
I know that speaking for myself and Josh, I mean, if we didn't have that support at home to dedicate the time to do these things, it just wouldn't happen. So we're very thankful to have good wives at home that are helping us out. So,
for sure.
All right. With that, we're going to sign off for tonight, and I'm sure I'm going to have all three of you guys back on again soon, probably as winning or a top place in tournaments in the future. And for those that listen to the podcast, we are planning another podcast before the end of the season or the end of the year to feature our Crossroads team and talk to them not only about our Angler of the Year, which of course is going to head up that Crossroads team, but a little bit about what they're doing together to prepare for a trip up north. So it should be interesting to see how that trip goes if they're fishing away from their home waters. So, all right, guys, thanks again for your time.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.